Hey, Toronto. You ready to go back to work?
I'll dig these goddamn thumbs in your eyes and I will love it!
What's that? FBI! What'd I do?
Hello, welcome to our RecapPlus channel with me, Matthew. Today we will watch a recap movie called The Man from Toronto, released in 2022. This is a spoiler content video. So please turn on the subtitle and let's start the story. The movie begins with Teddy trying to film ads for some innovative products he wants to launch. He starts with stretch bands, a plastic suit to raise the temperature while working out, and a bar that can adjust to your desired height. Safe to say, all these ideas backfire despite Teddy's dedication and passion. We then jump to a car driving through the Utah desert. It stops outside a cabin, and a man gets out. A man waiting inside is called an assassin, known simply as the Man from Toronto, to get information out of a guy he has taken captive. Toronto arrives and right off the bat starts off as very intimidating. The captive tries not to be fazed, but as Toronto heats up his knife and starts talking about flaying the man's various body parts, the guy gives up the information. Toronto then leaves, and the guy who had called him shoots the captive. We then go back to Teddy, who wishes his wife a happy birthday and tells her that he is taking her to a cabin to treat her. Lori loves her husband very much and tries to tell him not to Teddy things up, a term that her colleagues use when a screw-up happens. Teddy is offended at his name being used as such but also accepts that he has been causing a lot of screw-ups. Lori encourages him to propose his business idea to his boss Marty, and Teddy says he will do it that day. Teddy heads off to work, handing pamphlets out to everyone he passes. He arrives at the gym he works at and shares his idea of non-contact boxing with his boss. Teddy's boss is very unimpressed and calls it the stupidest idea ever. He also berates him for not designing the pamphlets correctly, as Teddy forgot to add the address and phone number on them. Marty tells Teddy that he's a nice guy, but he needs someone with grit and fires him, dumping his business proposal in the trash. Meanwhile, Toronto arrives at his house in Toronto, and we see he has a very cool modern place with a cherry blossom tree in the center. As he starts on his breakfast, he gets a call from someone called the handler. As he cooks up a fancy breakfast for himself, the handler tells him of a rare deal that will pay $2 million, which gets his attention. She tells him to head to Ononcock, Ontario, and gives him a cabin number. Back to Teddy, he and Lori also arrive in Ononcock for their vacation, and Teddy drops off his wife for a day in the spa while he goes to set things up in the cabin. However, due to his previous negligence, he misreads the number of the cabin and arrives at the wrong one. The guy inside mistakes Teddy for someone from Toronto and also misinterprets Teddy's box of naughty stuff for an assassin's tools. Teddy is himself, and the misunderstanding persists until the thug takes him into the basement, and Teddy is forced to extract information from their victim. Teddy freaks out and tries to run, but the thugs don't let him. Teddy catches on fast to what is going on and tries to act as if he really is from Toronto. He starts to intimidate the captive but also whispers to him the truth, saying that he should give up the info so that both of them can walk out of there. Teddy's ruse proves successful, and he obtains the information from the guy. The head thug sends the obtained info to some colonel, but before they can do much else, a flash grenade is dropped in the basement, and the wall is torn away, revealing that the entire cabin area is surrounded by the FBI. Teddy is also captured and taken in, but they quickly realize that Teddy cannot be the Man from Toronto. However, they cannot let him go because the thug in the cabin who had let Teddy in had taken a picture of Teddy and sent it to Marin. Marin is the former Venezuelan Colonel Sebastian Marin, whose plans to overthrow his country's government were destroyed by US intelligence, and since then, he has sworn revenge. The agents explain to Teddy that Marin and his wife are planning something, but they don't know what, and Toronto is their best hope of getting in. They want Teddy to continue posing as Toronto and get close to Marin so they can obtain the information they need. Teddy is not interested and just wants to get back to his wife and her birthday celebrations. They convince him that an agent named Santoro will look after his wife and keep her distracted with shopping, etc. However, Santoro is too good looking, and Teddy does not feel comfortable. He negotiates that they cover his debts to get his cooperation. He tells his wife that he has a presentation that Marty wants him to attend and that he'll meet her tomorrow in DC. Toronto discreetly approaches the crime scene at the cabin and discovers a receipt bearing Teddy's name and details. After infiltrating Teddy's account and being unimpressed by his workout videos, Toronto confers with his handler to strategize the next steps. Tracking Teddy down, Toronto intercepts the agents transporting him to Daniela, the colonel's wife. Unexpectedly, Daniela redirects Teddy to a hangar instead of meeting Marin, and Toronto, seizing the opportunity, commandeers the agent's car. Forcing the agent to tail the SUVs, Toronto intervenes as Teddy is transported to Puerto Rico, infiltrating the mid-air flight to reveal himself. Despite Toronto's revelation, they remain unconvinced and continue to believe Teddy is the actual assassin. Toronto substantiates his claim by eliminating Marin's men and rescuing Teddy, preventing both from falling out of the plane. They land in a field and proceed on foot after the plane explodes. The handler chastises Toronto for sparing Teddy, emphasizing the importance of leaving no witnesses alive. Recognizing the necessity of Teddy, who Marin thinks is Toronto, Toronto informs Teddy about the need to locate someone named Mr. Green and deliver him to Marin. The narrative shifts to a golf course in Miami, where a man in a pink shirt, identified as the man from Miami, eliminates one of two men with a golf stick. The surviving man flees as Miami receives instructions from the handler to head to Puerto Rico for a $2 million payday. Agreeing, he transforms his golf stick into a rifle, shooting the fleeing witness. Teddy and Toronto reach Puerto Rico, where Toronto attempts to groom Teddy to convincingly portray him. At a tech conference, Teddy is taken to a room containing 4 captive men, and the leader instructs him to identify Mr. Green and take him to Marin in Washington. Toronto guides Teddy on intimidation tactics, using actions and knives to assert control over the situation. Teddy strives to maintain his act, but a mishap with one of the knives leads to an accidental cut underneath a man's eye, making Teddy sick and causing him to vomit on the man and another. Surprisingly, the real Mr. Green confesses. However, the thugs notice Teddy's earpiece and are about to attack him when Toronto arrives, swiftly eliminating them. Questioning Mr. Green about Marin's interest, he reveals his involvement with DARPA, where seismic explosives were developed. Untraceable, these explosives mimic subterranean tremors. Green discloses that Marin needs him for a top-secret project initiated 2 years ago, involving the Venezuelan embassy in Washington. One of the fail-safes for the explosive relies on Green's thumbprint, prompting Toronto to amputate Green's thumb. Heading to Washington, Teddy is still essential for delivering the thumb, but he adamantly refuses. Amid their argument, Miami attacks, leading to a scuffle in which Teddy is thrown onto fixtures. Toronto temporarily deals with Miami and stitches up Teddy, who was shot in the buttocks. After updating the handler on their progress, Teddy noticed a discrepancy in her information. Toronto dismisses Teddy's suspicions, and they proceed toward Washington. During their flight, Teddy attempts to empathize with Toronto about his troubled childhood, but Toronto becomes defensive, accusing Teddy of being a coward who fails to fulfill his promises. That night, they have dinner with Lori and her friend Anne, who hits it off with Toronto. The FBI, tracking Teddy, realizes he is with Toronto, prompting them to leave when Teddy notices Miami's arrival. In a storage room, Miami corners them, seizing the thumb, and the handler's involvement is revealed. Teddy and Toronto steal a police car and head to the Marin meet. In Minnesota, Toronto shares a past experience where he spared his target due to a child waiting in the car, leading to unforeseen consequences that haunt him. He expresses a desire to avoid killing, opting for a quieter life, perhaps opening a restaurant. Meanwhile, Miami and the handler deliver the thumb to Marin, but Teddy disrupts the deal by pretending to be Toronto, despite the handler's insistence otherwise. The thumb doesn't work, and the FBI intervenes, capturing Marin. Toronto escapes with the money while Miami and the handler get away. The FBI discovers the thumb belongs to Marin's henchman, revealing that Randy prevented Marin from arming the weapon. Returning home, Teddy finds Lori has left after learning about his job loss and lies. Racing to stop her, Teddy is attacked by Miami but is saved by Toronto. They fend off additional assassins summoned by the handler. The handler demands the money at gunpoint, leading to a chase where grenades are fired at Teddy and Toronto. The confrontation ends at a factory, where Teddy drops the handler into a vat, resulting in her death. A final assassin, the man from Tokyo, is dispatched by Toronto using Deborah, his 1969 Dodge Charger. Teddy reconciles with Lori at the train station but accidentally parks on the tracks, leading to the destruction of Deborah by an oncoming train. The money scatters as the FBI arrives. A year later, Teddy and Lori are expecting a baby. Toronto fulfills his dream of opening a restaurant and is in a relationship with Anne. Teddy declares Toronto his partner in a new online gym, presenting him with a payment toward replacing Deborah. However, Toronto later calls Teddy to issue a threat.